Hello, and welcome to the Daring to Succeed podcast. I'm your host, Juliana Yao Jorgen, and today I'm joined by Margo White, a strategist and author with over 22 years of experience transforming how traditional industries sell, communicate, and evolve. She built and ran a licensed healthcare brokerage firm, landing international clients, and is now the author of Survivors and Inventors, decoding the unseen psychology behind B2B deals. Welcome to the podcast, Margo.
Juliana, it's my pleasure to be here today and to talk to you.
Yeah, so let's dive right into it. Tell me about, and our audience about, how you came up with the idea of survivors and inventors as sort of a simplified way of looking at archetypes.
Well, first of all, because I started in B2B business and I had to sell kind of complicated ideas and do that on the first meeting with people that I knew nothing about, and I had no time to figure out who they were. So I put my hands on every single psychology book and sales book that I could find, and I figured out that there are sometimes it's like 20 types, 12 types, all this kind of types of people, that you can sell to. But I had no time to figure out what kind of types they are. And over time, I found out that even licensed psychologists do not have like one or two, they don't figure them out in 1 or 2 hours. It takes days or weeks. So I thought, like, how are all those psychology tricks are going to help me to close the deal with a certain person, right? What kind of questions should I ask if they're like this type or that type? Then, you remember that golden rush of customer avatar. Also, they gave us structure of like this person owns this kind of car, they graduated from this university, and they have 2 kids. Okay, in corporate boardroom, how does your conversation change if he graduated from Boston University or Harvard? I mean, how? Okay, so no one taught us what to do with that information. And I figured out that I need to simplify this thing as much as possible. And over the time, I just found a pattern that there are like people who are kind of, pro change, and they kind of change things around themselves all the time. And there are those who are the status quo dependents. So I started paying attention to that. Okay. So we have someone who is, sticking to their, system, strategy, whatever, until it fails them. And we have others who are constantly changing things, even though they work. So I started like looking closer to this kind of type of people in general. And then I figured out that it's like two different universes. And these are the only universes that matter when you're sitting, once again, in front of the person and actually having this conversation. That's how the concept of survivors and inventors was created.
Yeah, I love that so much because you're so right. There's so many different ways we can segment different personality types and archetypes. And what's always funny is you can tell the junior people in the room because they're applying those strategies so directly, where it's like, oh, I know you went to that university, so I'm just going to name drop something into the conversation, but it doesn't actually like move the conversation in a meaningful direction.
Absolutely. Because you know what? Once again, what we do is, what we graduate and what we have, both survivors and inventors can have these things. You cannot say that all people who graduated from Harvard are inventors or innovators. Okay. No, or all dropouts are innovators. You cannot say that. It's like saying that, if you like apples or if you like oranges, that you're a certain type of person. No, that's not it. It's about the pattern of how you make this decision. You can own an Apple computer, and you can own an iPhone and be 100% survivor person. That doesn't define you. Things that you choose do not define you. You know what actually defines you? The way you choose them. The why you do that. Do you do that because you actually need that and you waited till the last push to make this decision? Or is constant change for you actual pattern of life? Because that's how you feel that you will, you know, not just develop, but you will survive in this life because you constantly feel like I need to change something all the time. I need to improve. I need to choose best of the best of the best. So this is kind of the different thing. And uh, well, it's really a complicated concept, though, Julianne. You know, although it sounds easy, but it's not. But here's what I thought when I actually started researching this thing. It's better to learn deeper about two types and then like go 50-50. You're either sitting in front of this type or that type, okay? Rather than choose like 20 types and 12 types and 50 types. And that's what happens. So the pattern at which the person makes a decision, this is something that you need to figure out when you're sitting in front of them, especially at the first meeting, especially in B2B sector.
Yeah, I find that so fascinating because as a business owner, I do a lot of research on marketing and sales techniques as well, and I just am so fascinated with your approach because, and I don't know if you see this as well, but a lot of sales and marketing psychology depends on what you mentioned earlier with identity as the thing that's chosen. And I love that you've pretty much inverted the equation and said that the identity is based on how they choose. Why does that sound so like
Simple?
earth-shattering? Yeah, like why is it so simple but earth-shattering and like eye-opening for people who have been taught for so long that you need to focus on the identity as the thing that's being sold?
Well, honestly, to be honest, I'm a big conspiracy theorist, and I think that
Mhm.
the most obvious things are well hidden in front of people's eyes. And when I see something too complicated, actually, Julianne, I'm thinking like, is it really true? Is it really what we need? Because if it's too difficult, too complicated, then it's probably not the thing. There's something behind it. And the concept of survivors, inventors, it actually, you know, in terms of marketing, you mentioned marketing, right? And marketers in general, we over the years we were taught that you need to um, you need to learn lots of things about your uh, customer. You need to constantly dive into details, and then they moved us away from those details that actually matter and to things that people own and where the places they go and this and that you know So, I mean, in general, the concept of survivors inventors, it's something that will help both retail people and corporate people, corporate boardrooms. Okay. And the whole idea is that, I mean, both types are trying to survive. Both types make their living. But for a survivor, to make a living means that they need to protect and perfect what already works. It doesn't mean they're stagnant and they're staying in the same place. No, they need to protect and just perfect what works. Inventors, they see their survival in constant change. And by the way, this concept already exists in bees. Okay, bee world is a wonderful world where you have like 80% of bees who do this waggle dance. They go to the field, find a nectar, they go back to their hive and they do back waggle dance. And then the other bees follow those bees. There are 20% of bees who just wander around and try to find other, fields and other uh, places, and they don't do waggle dance and they don't bring anything home. So the fair question would be, why didn't evolution get rid of those bees or try to explain to those bees, like, what, if you will not do this thing that works, then you will kind of be extinct, right? So what happens is that those 80% of bees, they uh, save the day. They bring in the food, they develop, the system and everything. But 20% of bees, when the disaster happens, they have everything ready for the whole hive to relocate to another field. And you know that nature constantly changes. So we have lots of changes, including the storm, including running out of flowers, and lots of things, right? Like this. So these 20% of bees keep them alive over time. And that's exactly what inventors do. Okay. So they may come back, without any honey, without any, nectar, without anything. But the reason bees exist, and the reason we exist as human beings as well, is that we had those kind of inventors within us who made this kind of progress. Otherwise, we would just be in caves right now and doing what everybody, felt like was working. So, and probably we wouldn't even survive because, once again, you know, nature changes, everything changes. We needed to adapt. Inventors help us adapt. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I'll kind of take us to the natural next part of the conversation, which I know you spent a lot of time in your book on, which is how a lot of us, especially entrepreneurs, especially business leaders, immediately think, "Oh, I'm an inventor." What's kind of your take on that immediate step once they hear, the depth that you share in your book about the difference between the two and how they operate, as well as how they fit into the bigger ecosystem?
Absolutely. Well, I like to say that until proved otherwise, you should consider everyone a survivor. Okay, both companies, both boardrooms, both your clients and yourself. And the first thing that I think that before, trying to figure out whether uh, the person is survivor or inventor, you need to realize that survivor is not a bad thing. Okay, because if everybody was an inventor, just to make this clear, Warren Buffett is a survivor. He's not an inventor. You know who inventor is? Steve Jobs, who got fired from his own company. And if not Steve Wozniak, we wouldn't have Apple today, by the way, because Steve is a survivor. And, uh, this Jobs, with all his crazy ideas and constantly moving, he needs a survivor to, hold him back. So survivors and inventors only work together. And the reason, once again, our world works and the way it works is that 80% are survivors, 20% are inventors. So it's 1 to 5. We need to understand that uh, inventors, they they cannot live without change. If you cannot live without change constantly, if it's kind of an itch for you, and even if something works, like your phone works well, your computer works well, like I don't know, everything that you're surrounded with works well, then in this case, it stays with you. You are a survivor. You're just perfecting things that work. You may make things better. Okay. So for example, when Steve Jobs, I like to make this comment, when Steve Jobs was alive and iPhone was changing every single time, it was an inventor company. Now it's a survivor company. And the reason why people are so frustrated is that iPhone is just perfecting what already works. it's not inventor anymore. Okay, it's just making things slightly better. And if you will look at Samsung, for example, this company became kind of a little bit inventor company. I don't know I haven't looked at the change in management, by the way, but that should be interesting. I mean, who leads the company? The same company led by a different person just suddenly changed its status. Okay, and so that's what it actually looks like. The inventors, they not only build their own way, they make others, they educate others to follow this new way. And it's a very difficult process, by the way. Once again, since the audience knows Apple really well, if you remember when Apple introduced their phones, they needed to educate their audience to use them because it was nothing like Nokia, BlackBerry, um, any other brand was that was on the market. So they needed to educate their audience, which wasn't an easy way to do, by the way. But once you educate your audience, then it's very, it, it just, these people just stay with you. Okay. So when you look at the company, for example, you are about to meet a company, let's put it this way, and you look at the systems and processes that run there, like what are they selling, who are they selling to, and et cetera, et cetera. You can already make conclusions without even meeting them. Okay. Are they offering a new way of using things, even if these things are, are they offering a new way of service that is not available in the market? Like, are they choosing the hard way because that's what inventors do all the time? Or are they industries or companies that are in real estate or this and that are survivor companies? They know that this already works and they just make it slightly better than everybody else. So even without meeting the person, you can already, define whether they're survivor company or inventor company if you take a closer look.
Yes. I love that type of profiling because it actually sometimes already clears the field for if your product or service even is something they would be open to for the type of company they are then. And then can you walk us through kind of how you would translate that into the boardroom? Because you've painted a beautiful picture of how you can read a company based on whether the company is a survivor or inventor. But how does that translate to when you actually step into the boardroom or pick up that phone to talk to someone to try and get your foot in the door or close that sale?
Absolutely. First of all, before meeting the person, you can already scan their social media. It's very difficult nowadays to not have any information about the person until you meet them. And by the social media scan, you can already find out whether which ideas are they sharing. Are they more emotional ideas or are they practical? Are they kind of numbers and facts and data? All this stuff. Um, Secondly, is how did they make any kind of other type of decision last time? If you're meeting a CEO, you can take a look at the series of deals that this company has made in the past several years, not regarding your product, but regarding general, cooperation with other companies. What type of companies are they? Um, was this decision based on just pure numbers, like it's a better option, or was it kind of disruption decision meaning that I'm kind of inventor and I want to surround myself with inventors? Okay, so even before meeting that person in the boardroom, you can already collect an information about them if you ask the right questions. And these questions do not include whether they own a townhouse or not. Okay. It's once again is if you, it's one thing that I encourage salespeople to do is go beyond your product. Stop just focusing on things that you sell, whether it's healthcare, whether it's marketing services, this and that. It doesn't matter. Just look at how these people made decisions on other spheres, because how you make decisions on those is how you make decisions in everything. Okay, this is going to help. And third, when you enter the boardroom, when you sit in front of the person, uh, you should ask them why they made certain decisions, how they made the last decision. What was the trigger point? Why it was important to them? Okay, this kind of questions. Not one more thing that I'm obsessed about is studying the incumbent before I enter the conversation. And what happens with most salespeople is they try to disqualify the incumbent from the first meeting. Like, they're bad people, they are like stealing money, and da da da. Instead of, uh, even if you see that the deal is bad on the paper, try to understand why your future client, your prospect, made it. I mean, they're not stupid. Probably they graduated from that school that was on your customer avatar profile. So they know how to count, and they still made the decision. So it means that they justified it to themselves. And just trashing the competition, the incumbent, will give you $0. But if you try to dive in, and this is one more thing that we do at Prospecting Broker before the deal, before the meeting, before the first meeting, we study the incumbent. We go to their website. We, make even calls, set up meetings, fake meetings sometimes. Yes, we do that, and it's legal. And we try to find out what is their strong point. Okay, if it's brand PR name that our client is, paying for, we appreciate that. We know exactly. We don't trash anyone at all. We just try to understand, and then we position ourselves as brand PR name. I mean, my clients, obviously not ourselves, because we are the brand PR name on the market. But those kind of yeah. So that's what we do even before the meeting. So once again, if you will make a list, the listeners will make a list, first you need to go to the social media, check the, what type of post they have. You can find out about their last decision. You can find out about all the decisions that they made in the company in the last 2-3 years, and you can study the incumbent. This everything, and of course, ask the right questions, like once again about the decision. What is important? What was important to them? Because I can sit in the boardroom and listen to the person talking about what they want in the future, and that might be a lie. But when they're talking about the past, they know 100% that I know 100% that they're talking the truth, because they can actually, articulate those feelings that they had in the moment, and they can tell the truth. About the future, I don't know. They might say the price is important to them, and then they make other type of decisions. But when they're talking about the past, I already know. And once you figure that out, you build a profile and you make check boxes. And the one that checks more, like survivor graph or inventor graph, now you know who you're talking to.
Yeah. I love what you've done there, because it actually is quite similar to what I teach people even in corporate roles, is to read for your decision makers. It doesn't matter if they're making a decision on a vendor or deciding on like the direction to take with whatever internally. If you look at their past history with how they've decided, who they trust, who they are actually listening to, who they argue with, there's so much information about like how their mind thinks and what they anchor to in terms of the actual value or what they're afraid might happen if they make the wrong decision.
Absolutely. And by the way, you mentioned something related to that earlier, which is, you know, marketers always say different things to us. And actually, there are one types of marketers that say you should sell with fear. The second type of marketers say you should sell with excitement. And I used to read those books, and they both made sense to me until I realized that they do make sense. But that's how you sell to survivors and inventors, to two different types. Because to one, you should sell with fear. And yes, with a survivor, you need to insert the fear. I don't say like, enter the boardroom saying that there is apocalypse going to happen if they don't use you. No, but there should be certain type of fear. And with inventor, if you will lead with fear, they will just close up and they don't want to deal with you. And you could have seen that happen in different types of deals when you basically do the same thing that you always do, you think is working, but suddenly the person just shuts down and they just don't want to have conversation and they just, leave the room, okay? They don't like it. That's inventor. That's inventor. Because
Yeah.
they don't like fear. Fear shuts them down. Fear makes survivors move because they realize that their current status quo will lead them to disaster, and they have no choice. And this is probably the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway is that survivors make change when there is no choice, and you have to organize the things around them throughout this negotiation process that they have no choice, okay, but to change. First you sell the change, then you sell yourself. Same with inventors. First, you get them excited about the change and you show all the wonderful, bright, shiny things out there, the future, and then you sell yourself. And what happens in the boardrooms? People come in, hey, I'm beautiful, I'm wonderful, I'm this and that. They start talking about themselves. It's like they don't care about the person who they're talking to. And this is exactly why we're having what we're having. And although I can tell you that I think that many people will read my book, but there will still be, the majority will continue doing the deals like I just described. So it's a benefit for those who read this book and apply, and for us as well, of
Yeah.
course.
No, it's such a beautiful system, and I love how it can be simple and complex at the same time because you're sort of hitting different layers with the same perspective and tying it all together.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up our time here on the podcast, you hinted at it a little bit, but just for those who have been really immersed in the conversation and might have missed it, what was that key takeaway you wanted to leave everyone with?
Well, wow, that's interesting. I would say that um, key takeaway is this: you need to understand how people make the decision and what they're led with, okay, whether it's decision about your product or not. And you have to make your vision broader than your product and service. The key difference between survivors and inventors is that survivors are led by fear, inventors are led by excitement, and you have only 50-50 chance to figure out which one is it. Have an open mind, assume that everyone is survivor until proven otherwise, and make sure you do your research before you start talking to the person, because there are lots of things that are out there already that will point you in the right direction. And of course, the whole concept of survivors inventors, although it is complex, but once you figure that out, it's very easy to put in brackets. And since you read my book, tell me, Joanne, are you a survivor or are you an inventor?
I think it would surprise people, but I'm actually a survivor because I mainly refine systems and make them work, but people see it as inventorism because of the way I move through the problem. So it looks like I'm an inventor, but I'm actually just taking things that work well enough and make them work extremely well.
You see, this is the truest thing about yourself that you can say. And being a survivor means that you protect the system that works. That's what's important. The system that works. Okay, and you perfect it. So this is an amazing thing, actually. I haven't figured out whether I'm 100% survivor or inventor yet, but I can say that by 70% as well. Yes. And I do believe that even though I wrote a book and all this stuff, I actually just reveal things that are already there. So I'm
Yeah.
also perfecting things that are already there. So don't be afraid to be a survivor, guys. It's
It's
cool.
fun to survive.
Get on the dark side. We have cookies.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's so amazing. Well, if people are delighted with what they've heard here, want to grab a copy of your book or just hear more from you, where can they find you? Where can they get a copy of your book?
Well, the book is available on Amazon. Just type in Survivors, Inventors, Margo White. I'm the only one here. The book is currently in the insurance broker edition, but I'm planning to release also the general edition that will have less insurance brokerage cases and more general cases. But right now, you can grab this one, and trust me, it includes not only the information whether how to define survivors and inventors, but also a very important section, which is selling change. We didn't get a chance to talk about that today, but you will find out how to move the deal from one stage to another, and how to work with those two types and actually make them feel comfortable. I would put it that way: feel comfortable with you, with your company, and actually sign the deal.
Amazing. And as someone who's
And
recently read the book, I can attest that if you don't want to wait for the general version, the insurance stuff isn't that heavy. So you can kind of still get so much value out of reading it, even if you don't know much about insurance.
Thank you. And by the way, if you will go to my website, prospectingbroker.com/book, I actually left the first 50 pages free of charge on
Ooh,
that page. Yes. And everybody can download that and read the first 50 pages, find out whether the book is for them or not. So that's
amazing.
Mm. I hope that that will be helpful. My goal is not to make money from this book. It's to get this information to as many people as possible, because it really makes life easier and prospecting easier. And I see how this works. It makes me happy.
That's
So
amazing. Well, we'll be sure to put that link and links to your Instagram in the show notes so people can find you. Thank you so much, Margot, for being on the podcast. It's been a delight to talk to you.
likewise, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for the wonderful questions, by the way.
Absolutely. And thanks for our listeners who have hung in there until the very end. And we'll see you next time.